This is a very interesting topic, and let me call upon the moderator, Hoinhu. Hoinhu Huazel. She's a journalist, writer, founder, Northeast Stories, and co-founder of Northeast Odyssey. She passionately showcases India's Northeast through its culture, nature, cuisines, and stories of people. Oh, please have a seat. I shall announce. Our panelist today, Mr. Arun Kumar TR, is a chef, preneur, if I get it right, at Ami's Pop-Up, a brand chef and producer director of Trackard Films, Mr. Arun Kumar. Uh, right on cue comes in Mr. Veer Sanghavi, who needs very little introduction. He's a very well-known Indian print and television journalist, author, columnist, talk show host. He's been a member of many professional, academic, and government bodies, and is also an excellent food critic. May I request all of you to step onto the podium, please, a panel. Rakesh Raghunathan, celebrity chef and food historian. He is acknowledged as the Culinary Ambassador for South India, and he has a wealth of anecdotal history and a deep insight into the socio-cultural practices of the South. That's you? Okay. And Sneha Saikia, a traveling chef. She hosts supper tables and pop-ups, cooking indigenous foods from the Northeast, and is a national awardee for women's empowerment in 2016. So for the ones who have not had lunch, you'll all begin to feel very hungry very soon. I count myself as one of them. Anyway, over to all of you. I'll request the moderator to take it on from here.
A very good afternoon to everybody. Thank you so much. I'm a little nervous because Veer Sanghavi, my former super boss, who's an excellent orator, TV presenter, a food connoisseur, food critic, is here, and the table has just switched, so please pardon me if I slipped anywhere. The topic that we will be discussing today is, of course, the linkages of food between Northeast and Kerala. We're talking about a state, an entire region which has 8 states. Food to these places is extremely important. They are not just cultural markers. And here I would just like to bring to mind one of my favorite author and a sociologist, Margaret Mead, who says that food is not just sustenance, it is a gift that we give from one generation to the other. So today the discussion that we're going to have is food is just beyond, it's not just for sustenance, it's something that helps us to perpetuate one culture from the other. And I would just like to quote Chef Rakesh Raghunathan's one of his writings. He said, "My mother is a great cook, but my grandmother is a better cook. And I know that with every passing year, we lose a part of a heritage." So on that, I want to start off the discussion. Food, of course, it's very contradictory. We evolve, and with every evolution, a part of a culture gets diluted just as we innovate and just as we advance. So therefore, there's a lot of room for discussion. I would like to begin with Sneha, my sister from Assam, my country sister from Assam. Sneha, you carried your food all the way from Assam, and you brought it here to Delhi, and you have also said it in many of your interactions that you were a little annoyed by the misunderstanding of food from the Northeast, but you have been doing it so beautifully. You have had your pop-ups, you have your table for 6, and you have been, to an extent, come to a state that people reckon you with Northeast food. Tell us a little about how have you woven in the storytelling in your food, in your play of recipes, and in how you basically present the food and made an inroad for yourself in a place which is very, very, let's say, not experimental in some way, but very heavy on its likes and dislikes.
Thank you, Hoinhu, and thank you, Alek, to speak about my cuisine from Northeast. I mean, I remember 12 years back when I started, when I came here in Delhi, Northeast food was not much explored, and people were skeptical to eat this. There were very few eateries, I think in Humayunpur, one or two, and one in Munirka. It was not much explored, and when I joined first in social media, I got many negative comments on my food photos because, yes, I was very passionate. You know, whatever I used to cook, I used to post it on the social media, and I used to get very, very negative comments that you eat snakes, you eat insects, and, more about it. So I thought, why not to showcase my cuisine through pop-ups. But then when I approached few places, they were also skeptical, and they thought that people will not come, people will not entertain my cuisine. So I first started it from my own house. I took it as a challenge. I said, okay, why not from my own house? I wrote it on the social media. Few people came, they liked the food, and I am, showcasing more vegetables. Of course, there will be non-veg, there is non-veg, but more vegetables because we have so many vegetables and greens which this part of India is not even aware of. Like in one festival in Assam, in Bihu, in April, we cook one dish with 101 variety of herbs and leaves. And the tradition, the culture is still going on. Still people, even if they are living in cities, they're making it. So I wanted to showcase that, and slowly, slowly people have accepted. And now, people ask me that, we want to come to your place to eat the food, and they are not bothered about the menu which I am curating. They first book the table, and I curate the menu according to them. But there is no adjustment, no fusion. I showcase and I cook, I curate whatever we cook. There will be bitter, there will be alkaline, there is no adjustment to the flavors.
That's really interesting. Chef Arunji, I'd like to ask you the next question. In your newly launched book, Fist on a Leaf, there's a very interesting uh, line where you wrote, I would just like to read out from there. Even I embarked on a journey to Kerala looking for the Onam of my childhood and seeking the tales of its origin. So I just wanted to ask you, what personal significance does Onam festival have, particularly for you? And when you went back after many years, did you find there was a disconnect in the Onam that you have seen as a child and now?
Well, Onam is one of those festivals, I think, as far as people in Delhi are concerned, it's quite popular for the sadhya. Onam by itself now has become a very popular festival. It no longer is, it no longer has religious connotations that it had earlier. As a child, I remember that Onam was always a kind of prayer to Lord Vishnu. But over a period of time, I think somewhere in the 60s, the government, the communist government there, made it a point to plug in the story of folklore, which is about Mavali, into the legend of Onam. So today, when Onam is celebrated in Kerala or elsewhere, we talk about Mavali or Mahabali coming back to visit his people. But it actually started as a kind of prayer to Vishnu, thanking him for a good harvest. So when I went back, there definitely was that disconnect. Uh, but what I found very heartening is that Onam today cuts across all classes, all religions, everything. I'd like to, just small example, the driver who was with me while I was there for Onam, uh, his name was Abdul. So on the day of Onam, there was a big sadhya at the hotel, which I was organizing, and I told him, why don't you come and have the sadhya? And he said, no, I have to go home because I have a sadhya there. So I thought, okay, Abdul must be having a lot of meat and things like that in the sadhya. I said, I'd like to come there. And he told me, no, it's a purely vegetarian sadhya they have at home. So on the day of Onam, cutting across most people in Kerala, they tend to have what is the traditional Nayar Sadhya. And I think in that way, tradition has continued with a small change as to who is celebrating.
That's really interesting. So I would just like to ask you this, as somebody who have actually seen the changing landscape of food in a place like Delhi, how would you record, how would you bring forward the evolution of this coming in of regional cuisine and the rise of entrepreneurship and also pop-ups? And where is the place in that for, especially for Northeast food? And of course, Kerala food is always, a part of it, but particularly for these two food.
Yeah, I think these things take time, Anu, because I remember in the early 1990s, if you wanted an appam in Delhi, there was Coconut Grove, and that's it, no? That's it. There was nothing else. And nobody knew. I remember when I was at school in Ajmer in the 1970s, and I was from Bombay, and there were lots and lots of Punjabis and people from North India. None of them knew what a masala dosa was. It's very hard to imagine a time when that was true. But it's true now. Masala dosa is now ubiquitous. It's the true Indian fast food. Appams, Kerala food, anybody who knows anything about food will tell you that it's one of India's great cuisines. According to me, the greatest, single greatest Indian cuisine. But it's surprising how long it took for that to penetrate. It wasn't that there were no Malayalis in Delhi. It wasn't that those flavors have changed. It was just that people were unwilling to experiment. I think something like that has happened with Northeastern food. As I said, there's all this nonsense about they eat snakes, they eat snails and all that. I think it was a sort of primitive idea propounded by uneducated people. Now thanks to you and people like you who've taken the plunge and taken risks, right? To do this was not easy. It's changing. It's still not great in Bombay, but in Delhi there are a fair number of northeastern places where you can go. It's changed most, oddly enough, because hotel chains are finally discovering it. There's an ITC hotel in Calcutta called the Royal Bengal, which opened about 3 years ago. They have a huge buffet, the largest buffet in the country, where they do live cooking. Their two most popular counters, all the usual rubbish, Chinese, tandoori, etc. The two most popular counters are chaat, because all the vegetarians go there. And this is what will surprise you, because it surprised me, the northeastern food. Because what they did was they got consultants, they took all the various cuisines of the Northeast. Some of them they cleaned up in terms of hotel food like they do with all other Indian food. But they do live Northeastern food every day on the buffet. And if you order in advance, as I do, they will make a menu for you of different Northeastern dishes showcasing different states. It's so incredibly popular in Calcutta that I've never understood why ITC doesn't bring it outside to other areas apart from the East. 3 days ago, I run an organization called Culinary Culture, and we did a rating of India's 30 best chefs. And after the event, there was a dinner, and the dinner was again done by ITC because we were at the ITC hotel in Udaipur, and they did all the dal bukhara and ran and dampuk's biryani and all the stuff that we take for granted. But the one thing I insisted on, and they were actually a little iffy about this, was I said, you fly in the northeastern chefs from Calcutta and do a northeastern counter. So they did a northeastern counter, and I think they were completely freaked out when that was the most popular counter of all the other cuisines. And these 30 great chefs, most of whom were from Bombay, Bangalore, Delhi, a lot of them, had never eaten northeastern food, I think to their eternal shame. Almost all of them just hung around the northeastern counter and said, we had no idea this food existed. So ITC is taking the plunge in a limited way. What we need is for more restaurateurs, more hotel chains to take the plunge. It's not a risk. They only think it's a risk in their minds. It's great, great, great food, and Indians will like it. But what we have is, I don't think, an unwillingness to enjoy it, but just a fear of trying. And hopefully, because of people like you, that will change.
Thank you so much. That was an interesting perspective. We'll discuss on the marketing strategy, which I think is what later in the next round. Chef, I'm going to take you back to the words that you said, that every generation we lose a part of our tradition and our recipes. So tell me, how does the loss of that family recipe reflect in our relationship with our heritage?
Go to and this is across communities. Go to any of the indigenous communities. Go to people's homes, say in Tanjavur, which is the culinary hot seat, cultural hot seat. I mean, it's filled literally every 10-15 kilometers. You'll have a very interesting story about art, culture, food, and it's almost an invisible line that differentiates one from the other. Um, when you talk to say some of these families who have been around in that region, who these communities that were integral to the Nilgiris biosphere, for example, if you talk to them today and ask them what is their favorite food, they will finish it in one line. They'll just say biryani. For lack of thinking, or the idea that that is what food is, has it's almost like ingrained today, right? So the problem is they have let these recipes go with the previous generation. It is also because we have taken out the food that we eat for granted. How many times have we gone up to our mom or dad or grandparents who cook for us and said, oh my god, that rasam that you made was just phenomenal, right? It is always that idea of food being taken for granted. They're like, yeah, this is like gar ka khana. We'll savor it along the way, and then one fine day it just goes away with them. So when you lose that particular food, it becomes a rarity. So there is that moment where you are going to savor that, say 10-15 years later in someone's house, and then your childhood memories, nostalgia come flooding back. Right? So it is that loss of culture, it is that loss of identity, which is why even today in some families, when they make certain masalas, it could be the garam masala, it could be the sambar powder, it could be the molaga pudi or the spicy lentil powder that is made. I always tell people that can trace you back to your ancestry, right? Because no garam masala is the same. And it will turn out that there is probably that one grandfather in the house that liked black cardamom. There is that one person who liked sesame seeds added to your idli chutney powder. And it will turn out that they would have grown that, they would have had some cultivation, or it would have grown abundantly there. So it always has a story. So there is that way for you to sort of go back and connect using food. And I think that is important. Preserving culture, preserving culinary traditions is very, very important for you to have some kind of a foothold.
Yeah, taking
Can
a
I
cue.
actually
Yes,
interrupt and
please.
take off on
Yes,
something
please.
he said? Now we talk about biryani. For many, biryani is now, as you probably know, the single most ordered dish on Zomato, on Swiggy. It's become, despite the government's attempts to push a vegetarian khichdi, it's become effectively the national dish of India. And yet, what I think is interesting is that in the old days, you had, if you ordered went to a Delhi restaurant, you got one mishmash kind of biryani which was authentic to no region except for the restaurant that served it. That has changed, and that people have an Awadhi biryani, they understand what the difference is. But the interesting thing for me is how much people are looking at Kerala biryanis, at South Indian biryanis. And those, I think, if you think about it, are probably the original biryanis of India. If you look at the history of Indian food and you look at the history of biryani, all the evidence now suggests that while pulao came from abroad, biryani was created during the Mughal period, perhaps around the Shah Jahan period in Delhi or Agra, depending on who you believe. And it was done originally as a mass dish. Pulao was the royal dish, biryani was there to feed the army. Now the theory is that after the Mughals created this biryani and the Nawabs of Awadh did their refinements, this biryani then traveled around the country and ended up in Kerala, where these Malayalis decided, oh, we'll cook like Mughals. Now to me, that seems incredible and untrue. If you look at the history of rice dishes in Kerala, even Islamic rice dishes, and you consider the fact that they had connections, trade routes with Yemen, so much of the Middle East, many of the great Kerala rice dishes predate the Mughals, they predate the Delhi Sultanate. They were just dishes invented, perhaps with influences from abroad, in Kerala. Now we call them biryanis or whatever. But the fact that people all over India are rediscovering it is, of course, a tribute to the cuisine of Kerala, but it's also a tribute to the fact that people now want to know what our food is like. And for Malayalis, I think it's Arun, as you know, is a very successful filmmaker, a journalist. He's into this because it's in your blood. It's not, that's not your training. Yeah, he's done this because it's in his blood, because he enjoys cooking. He's at the stage where he's such an accomplished cook. He's done pop-ups, he's done catering. His book is amazing, which I've read. But I think that is the future of Indian food, that people want to learn a bit more. They want to discover the origins of food. They realize that there are so many different kinds of food in India, and people who weren't really into food have got into it because we are rediscovering a heritage. Rakesh is a very accomplished chef, so you will know that there has never been as much interest in food as there is today, no?
Absolutely. And I think the audience today, or the people who appreciate good food, want to know the different layers to food. Like,
Yeah.
and the whole concept of micro cuisines has
Yeah.
evolved probably because of that. When you go to, say, Chettinad, when you go to Kanyakumari, or when you go to parts of Kerala, Palakkad, Thrissur, every single place has homes that have opened their doors today for people to come and savor that local food, because there will be that one dish which will be very, very unique. I mean, if you take the example of a fish curry from, say, the coastal town of Kanyakumari upwards, every 10-15 kilometers it is the same fish curry that will keep changing based on produce, based on communities, based on tastes and preferences there. And that today is what people want. They want to understand the different layers, different nuances to food, and the kind of food that they're eating. Like, what is it that they're biting into? Why are we eating it? Right? And I think that is what makes food interesting, that they know that they're biting into a spoonful of history.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, the reason I said that was because I think the Northeast is at that same inflection point. Yeah. If you have the right breaks, given that there is curiosity about Indian food, about our heritage, and about the Northeast, which has many other problems, but in terms of tourism and accessibility. But if we can exploit that curiosity, then Northeastern food is very special, very unique, and I think has a great future.
Yeah, on that
Sorry,
note,
Hoinhu, I'm
no,
doing your
it's
job
okay.
for you,
No,
but
it's
go
okay. Where does that curiosity come from? Is it because we have evolved the evolution of the urban palate, or is it because of the interconnectedness of where we are right now? I mean, we have never been, like, rightly as you said, we've never been so curious about the different layers and nuances. Now we also need to know where is it coming from, the history, the anecdote, and the stories behind dishes. So where does that come from? Does it come from the evolution of our own palate? Or is it because of our natural curiosity to better understand our backyards? For instance, the little known, I'm bringing back Northeast again and again, the little known Northeast. Where does that curiosity come from? Or is it because we've had too much of different cuisines, already, bursting with flavors? If you look at Gurgaon itself, Gurgaon is like almost like the melting pot, different cuisines of Indian as well as international. So our search for our regional food, where does that come from? Where do you think it comes from, Chef? If I may ask you again this.
I think one of the key things that drives all of this is ingredients.
Okay.
Right? Like today there is that whole conversation on indigenous food. There is conversation on indigenous rice, because back in the day, in India alone, we had more than 350,000 varieties of indigenous rice. Where is all that gone? The produce, seasonal eating, micro-regional produce, hyper-local. All of these are sort of buzzwords that are there, and micro-cuisines automatically fit into those. Right? And it makes a lot of difference, because today there are people who want that experience, and it is only growing. There are shows like MasterChef that push people to reimagine food. I would always tell people, like, the Onam Sadhya or a typical banana leaf meal is probably the fastest 25-30 course meal you'll ever eat in your life. Yeah. Right? I mean, if you exceed the 20 minutes, there's someone waiting behind you to pull the chair out and for them to get onto that seat. So it lends itself so beautifully to be presented, different flavors, texture, and can be presented in the most modern, appealing way without altering the flavors, right?
Bursting with flavors. If you look at Gurgaon itself, every Gurgaon is like almost like the melting pot, different cuisines of Indian as well as international. So our search for our regional food, where does that come from? Where do you think it comes from, Chef? If I may ask you again this.
I think one of the key things that drives all of this is ingredients.
Okay.
Right? Like today there is that whole conversation on indigenous food. There is conversation on indigenous rice, because back in the day, in India alone, we had more than 350,000 varieties of indigenous rice. Where is all that gone? The produce, seasonal eating, micro-regional produce, hyper-local. All of these are sort of buzzwords that are there, and micro-cuisines automatically fit into those. Right? And it makes a lot of difference, because today there are people who want that experience, and it is only growing. There are shows like MasterChef that push people to reimagine food. I would always tell people, like the Onam Sadhya or a typical banana leaf meal is probably the fastest 25-30 course meal you'll ever eat in your life. Right? I mean, if you exceed the 20 minutes, there's someone waiting behind you to pull the chair out and for them to get onto that seat. So it lends itself so beautifully to be presented, different flavors, texture, and can be presented in the most modern, appealing way without altering the flavors, right?
10 years ago, it was actually thanks to Weave that I was put in charge of a restaurant serving South Indian food. It took me a very long time to be able to convince people to even taste the food. And the first time I did a sadhya at that restaurant, people were just, very perplexed, to see so many things on your leaf, and they had no clue how to go about eating it or, what to do with it. But today, when the sadhya is served, all of them know exactly what to do. They know what to expect, and they go ahead. So I think that curiosity or the urban palate developing, definitely. I think we've become more adventurous.
Adventurous, does that also mean we are more knowledgeable? For instance, Sneha, if I may ask you, when you served your guest, are you aware that they would come fully well researched, and does that make you nervous, because they're no longer people who are just trying out? They know what their smoked pork should be, or they know what a Naga pork would be versus maybe a fried pork. So they know what they're looking for. So does that make you a little nervous? And also, second question with that, you also mentioned about the social media. Do you think that social media has also helped you really in greatly promoting the food that you're doing?
I was nervous on very first day when I started my pop-up, on the very first pop-up. But thankfully, 100 people came, and I have to shift it to the 2, lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
I was nervous only on that day, and that the guest gave me the confidence, because I will say, one part of society, they're very curious. They want to explore. And people, they want to come and they want to learn about Northeast cuisine. And I make stories. I make my pop-ups interesting, because it's not that, you just cook and serve the food and then they leave. You have to make it interesting. So we serve our food in bell metal. There is a story behind it from the Mughal time. So I tell them about it, why we serve it in bell metal, how traditionally it has started. Before that, it was banana leaf. And I also serve in banana leaf, and I tell them, you put the hot rice over it and you get the, flavor. That makes interesting. And also our ingredients, they want to learn about our ingredients. It's not so common, like bait shoots, even bamboo shoots. Though they have learned a lot about bamboo shoot, but how to eat. We eat fresh bamboo shoot, we eat fermented bamboo shoot, and how we, add bamboo shoot in other dishes, and bitter brinjals. There are certain, ingredients which make them very curious, and I love to, share the stories behind it. And yes, social media has helped me a lot, because whatever I get from back home, even if it is just one ingredient, I put it on social media, and people message me, how do you eat this? Then I tell them, you come to my table, I'm doing this pop-up, and now they book the table and they come, and it is popular now.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
You
yes, please.
advise so
Yeah.
many Northeastern governments. I can just tell you what one of the basic problems is, that
Yes,
everybody
please.
I know from the Northeast complains that it's difficult to find good Northeastern restaurants in India. My problem is it's difficult to find good northeastern restaurants in the northeast. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. You go to the northeast. First of all, mobility is a huge problem. I first went to Mizoram and Arunachal in 86 when they became states. I went back to Arunachal 2 years ago. And the only way to go was one very dangerous, I thought, helicopter journey in which I was actually invited by the chief minister who said, how was the ride? So I said, fine. Do you use helicopters a lot? He said, yeah, my father died in a helicopter crash.
Oh my God.
So it was not something that was guaranteed to evoke much confidence. But if the Northeast was made much more accessible, and that's something to do with the center, not just with the northeastern states, and if more restaurants and hotels opened in the Northeast. I remember I went to, everybody got very upset with me, I went to Meghalaya and various states in the early 90s, and I said the only way to eat well there is to either know somebody who invites you home or to eat momos 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Because the restaurants never served genuine food, never served authentic food. It was almost as though they were, in the old days, Indian restaurants would serve only butter chicken and malai paneer because they thought nobody wanted to eat anything else. I think to an extent that's the problem in the Northeast. There are more good Northeastern restaurants outside the Northeast than there are in the Northeast. I think that's the basic
Shall I
problem.
add, Hoinhu?
Yes, after that, yeah.
You will find, you will not find authentic restaurants in Northeast because they also want to, it's a commercial place. So to attract the North Indian or non-Northeastern tourists, they will add the dhania, jeera, garam masala to make it more tasty and oil. That's why, I remember yesterday only I met one guest and she said, is it similar to Bengali? Because she has eaten there in some Assamese dhaba with the masala and all. I said, no, it is not. So that's the thing.
Also, if I may just add, in the Northeast, we don't have a culture of really eating out. It's something
Yes.
very new.
Right.
It's just coming of age. New bakeries are shooting up and mushrooming everywhere. Bakeries, bars, restaurant bars, they're just coming in. And as I speak, few new very good restaurants, people are enterprising enough. People who have had the exposure, the youth are slowly going back
Where?
to start up. In Assam, if you ever go to
Basically,
Guwahati,
every time I ask this question, people say Assam, and then you push them, they say Shillong. And
No,
then
no,
it
no.
ends over there.
In Guwahati, there's an award-winning restaurant called Michinga. You should go.
Okay.
And of course,
Where is it?
in Guwahati.
I rest my case.
Yeah. No, but it's a good restaurant.
Yeah.
So we don't have a culture of eating out, but it's something that is, evolving. People are now setting up restaurants, all of that.
But you don't have a restaurant cuisine. You see, the advantage
we don't
Malayalis
really
have over
yeah,
you
yes.
is that apart from these outstanding home cuisines, and there are many because the Syrian Christian cuisine is different from, say, the Nair cuisine, etc. They also have a tradition of going to toddy shops and eating snacks and eating food over there. So they're ideally placed to open restaurants in the rest of India when the opportunity arises. You guys are slight disadvantage.
Also, it's the baggage of history and the climate with which we are operating right now, that we don't have all those things. We are just coming out from the shadow of, historically very disturbed states where in my state, I will fail my duty if I don't talk about Manipur. Are mindful.
Well,
we
that's
are
not
mindful.
a historically disturbed state.
No,
that's
I'm
a
not talking
currently
about,
disturbed state. Yeah, it's even worse.
We are mindful about the fact that over 60,000 people are displaced, and it is with that backdrop in my mind that I'm sitting here and talking to you all. Back in the days, even when it was considered good, we could not go out after 5 p.m. So the concept of eating out was really, really not there. But it's just that now we're coming out, moving out from the shadow of the past, and these are going to be a part of our, our culture right
Going
now.
forward.
Going forward. Hopefully, hoping that we put the essence of culture intact. Anyway, Arunji, I wanted to ask you something. Food is really an afterthought for you, as Veer sir very rightly pointed out. You're a filmmaker. You're also a very well-known journalist, and that filmmaking, food happened because it was always in your blood. So I want to take you back to the 90s, perhaps, when you catered to the King of Bhutan. My research revealed that you had catered
that
for
was
the
meant to
King
be a
of...
secret,
Yeah, I know,
actually.
but it's out now. I wanted to know from you how much of cultural presentation was there in every bite or in every in the curation of the menu? What did you want to showcase? Because you're from the south, but at the same time you're representing India. So how much of what did you want to put in the
so
plate?
basically the food that we were doing was from the Deccan, the 4 states. So when we spoke to His Highness and we were talking about the menu, he said just do what you people eat there and present it in a way that it's done there. Obviously, there was a lot of, given the kind of food they eat in Bhutan, whether they would, take to an appam, whether they would eat stew, whether mutton sukha will go down well, but you won't believe it. Once people take a bite of no matter what the cuisine is, and if the food is good, you can be sure that they will come back for it. So I think even when we are trying to promote any kind of food from any region, we just have to make sure that it is, good food that is being served, and not, somebody who's just shamming and putting off, any other kind of food and saying it's from Northeast, saying it's from Kerala or from the South. It needs to be somewhere genuine. I wouldn't say authentic because you really can't pinpoint, what is the perfect recipe for a dish, but come close to that at least.
Okay. In the interest of time, I just have one common question for all of you. We often talk about fusion food. I want to know from all of you, maybe in a line or two, does it enrich or does it dilute the culinary idiom of, what we're talking about?
See, when you're talking about fusion food, when I started my research and documentation of food, I considered myself a purist. But then you evolve over a period of time, right? And it's all about the aesthetics, it's all about how it's presented, and it's all about how it lends itself into beautiful storytelling. And I think by plating food in a very modern way, it has all of that. But that said, when you're talking about fusion food, it should be a well thought out fusion. Because today, even before you work on the actual recipe or give it the way it is supposed to be, there are extra elements that are added that completely confuse the recipe. So if it is not a well thought out fusion, it is confusion.
So your thoughts on this, please.
Yeah, I think the term fusion is used mainly by insecure chefs and by people who don't understand food. All food is constantly developing. No food is frozen in time. We talk about authenticity, but as Rakesh has said, every 20 kilometers, the Alleppey fish curry will not be the same out of Alleppey, it will change. It's the same in Tamil Nadu or in Karnataka with the sambar. The recipe changes. So don't worry too much about what is authentic to where. Worry about what is good. Understand, as he says, the culture. Understand the flavors. Understand where it's coming from. All what you consider the great dishes of Indian cuisine, the masala dosa was invented in a restaurant. It's not a traditional dish. Tandoori chicken was invented in a restaurant. Butter chicken was invented in Delhi as late as the 50s or the 60s in a restaurant. So chefs and people must always try and explore things. The idea behind a tandoori chicken was to take a tandoor that was used for breads and to put a chicken into it. Today chefs would call that fusion. Everybody else would call it a classic. So I think understand the food, understand the flavors, and don't worry too much about fusion, confusion.
Yeah, I think basically, I agree with that. To a certain extent, like I'll come back to the Onam Sadhya. When I was doing my research, I was talking to someone in Trivandrum, and they told me they served gobi Manchurian in a Sadhya. So, that I would say you need to draw a line. Serve the Sadhya the way it is meant to be. And there is a particular method to doing it. Stick to that, otherwise don't call it a Sadhya. You want to call it something else, a meal on a banana leaf, go ahead and do it.
I don't believe in fusion. It's a confusion totally. Food should be seasonal, food should be tasty, and food should be beautifully presented. That's it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Do we have any time for?
No,
okay.
no.
All right. On that note, thank you so much. And once again, it is rice that binds the two regions. There are also many common spices that bind us. I hope that we go from strength to strength as we allow food to bring us closer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for an amazing, amazing session. To all of you luminaries who are keeping the flag of authenticity, love in terms of food and the food journey alive. Um, you know, food is the great connector. Without food, there is nothing that really stays true to the human experience. So I think there is a lot that's emerging from this place. I was fascinated to hear about 350,000 varieties of rice. Oh my God. I mean, think about it. I don't even know how many are left anymore. So that's the kind of research we need. By the way, Arun's book is here on sale on the Sadhya. So please go look at it, pick it up. It would be great, and continue to tell the stories that you do. Absolutely, Veer. Well, he needs a mic that works. Mic de
Yeah,
dijiye.
can I just interrupt and say, if you haven't read Arun's book, go and buy it. I really endorse it. It's an outstanding book.
Thanks, sweet. Thanks.
That's great. He might sign it for you as well. So.
Yeah, sure. No
Yeah,
problem.
get him to do that. So, I call upon the Alek volunteers to do the honors and give our thanks. And meanwhile, on the question of why is everything exploding in terms of food, this is one of the positives of social media. Because everybody has a story to share, and there are people to listen who want to experiment. And the pandemic forced people to do more things with food. They had very limited options of any other kind of, a diverse experience. Food was there. So the number of, home chefs who kind of grew in that space. The other thing is about travel. Travel took off so much. And, when you have more homestays, opening up Airbnbs and not just hotels. When people invite you to stay in their homes, they're also inviting you to eat their meal, to have a authentic experience of their food. So I think all of these are kind of collective factors which have led to this huge quantum shift. So once again, inviting volunteers from Alek to give our thanks. Yes, ma'am. And Veer, I have to sort of hand it to you. You have pushed the food story in this country. I mean, we've all been reading, listening, watching, I don't know, since the 70s, 80s, whenever you started off, you've done more for food in times of, in terms of pushing all of this. So thank you. And you are a legend, and we honor you. Thank you. Yeah. We'll need a more enthusiastic clap as we felicitate them. Some of you may be hungry, some of you may need the caffeine, some of you may want to try a Sneha's pop-up, but let's do the honors first.